So we're gonna start now and welcome. This is Brian Harris, Independent Black Voters on Facebook, as we continue our series of getting to know the candidates. It's our belief that we must be informed voters. We must choose what's good for our community, regardless of political beliefs, values, etc. So today we have Senator Pat Spearman here. How you doing? And she is running for North Las Vegas mayor. So we're going to start off by letting you give us an intro, tell us a little bit about you, tell me a little bit of what the roles and the responsibilities are of the mayor of North Las Vegas, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, thank you. And again, thank you for the opportunity. I'm State Senator Pat Spearman. I have been a senator since 2012, and I, excuse me, currently serve as the chair of Commerce and Labor, vice chair for Health and Human Services, and I'm on the Education Committee. And I've chaired a number of other committees over the course of time. Also a member of West Trans for the Council of State Governments. I'm on the Energy Supply Task Force for the National Conference of State Legislators. I am the chaplain for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. And let me dispense with all of that other stuff, but that's just to let you know I've been active. I'm running for mayor for just really one reason. I'm also retired lieutenant colonel. And the only reason that I am running for mayor is because I believe this is a time that the residents of North Las Vegas need clear, concise, and transparent leadership. We are in a crisis right now, and the crisis, the affordable housing crisis, has been exacerbated by a number of events that have taken place over the last 18 months, if you will. Some of that has been because we have people who have been furloughed, who've been laid off. Some people have lost their jobs. Those jobs aren't coming back. And then we have the spectacle of landlords raising the rents for apparently no good reason. And I tell this story often. A few months ago, I had a lady who's 72 years old who called me and said she remembered, I came to her church and I spoke, and she remembered me, and she had the piece of paper that I gave her, said, contact me if you ever need me. She has, her only income is Social Security, and that's less than $2,000 a month. And where she is currently living, I think she said it was rent has been like $900. It was less than $1,000. But her current income was enough for her to eke out a comfortable living. She got a letter indicating that the landlord is going to increase the rent to $1,200. And she said, Senator, she said, I can't afford it. I can't afford it, and I can't afford to move someplace. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's just a snippet of the kinds of calls and the kinds of emails that I've gotten over the last year or so. I was able to help her get something done about that. And everybody who's contacted me in one way or another, I've tried to help them out. Some people, there was really nothing I could do. There's nothing I could do to save their rental property. Some people had a house sold from under them, and they didn't know until they got a notice on their door. And so this affordable housing crisis is really now at a peak. What I want to do as mayor is I want to make sure that we're focusing, first and foremost, we have got to make sure that any resources we have that will allow us to develop either new housing or refurbish houses that are already in existence, we've got to do whatever we can do to make sure that there is affordable housing in North Las Vegas. We've got something called private activity bonds. And what that does is if someone wants to build low-income housing and they get tax credits for it, that private activity bond is what the city uses to offset whatever the tax rebates would be. I think we ought to use that. I think we ought to look at what the ARPA funds are and make sure that we are, if there's any possibility of us using some of those funds to make sure that we have affordable housing. And I'm spending a lot of time on this because we have people who literally are in their cars sleeping in the park. And I think that it is obscene for any government entity that has an opportunity to address this situation not to do so. And I think it was like maybe 2 weeks ago, City Council met, Culinary Union got in excess of what the signatures that they needed to put this ballot initiative forward, let the people vote on it. And the City Council rejected it. What? Rejected it. And they rejected it saying they had something about, it was not the right, they were trying to use the primary when clearly the law says the last general election, which would have been 2020. Okay. And so outright just rejected it. And all the initiative was saying, these are the things we want to see happen so that people will be able to afford where they live. That's all it said. It didn't say you have to do it. It said, this is what we are asking the people to vote on. So affordable housing is the first thing. I also want to be the next mayor of North Las Vegas, because I think we have a tremendous opportunity with respect to some of the land. We're the only city in Clark County that's not landlocked. So we have an opportunity to recruit businesses to come to North Las Vegas that will pay in excess of $20, sometimes $30, $35 an hour in the tech industry, in the chip industry, in renewable energy, all of those things. We've got an opportunity to do that. And I know, because I've got the relationships, not just here, but the relationships with the work that I've done at the national level. I've got the relationships to talk to them to bring that to pass. And when we do that, we're talking about giving the citizens, the residents of North Las Vegas, an opportunity to have a good paying job, so that they can rise above, quote, being renters, but also make sure that they have an opportunity to become homeowners. I want to be the next mayor of North Las Vegas because I believe it's time out for neglecting some communities and then respecting others over them. I think what is happening in the more mature part of North Las Vegas with respect to zoning, with respect to some of the neighborhoods there that are being rezoned from residential to either commercial or light industrial without the benefit of the neighbors being able to say something about it. Those are the things that immediately come to mind, and that's why I really it took me a long time to decide to do this. But those are just some of the things that I want to do, and I'll stop talking because listen, Mr. Harris, this election could not be more clear. The choice could not be any clearer. We will either move forward in a direction where every neighborhood is respected and not neglected. We will move forward with an agenda that includes bringing innovation and technology to the city. We will move forward where we have a focus on affordable housing. We will move forward and make sure that we've got a medical corridor. We will move forward and make sure that government is transparent through and through. We will either move forward with that, with me, or people can stay with the status quo. And I just don't think that people want to do that. I really don't.
Well, thank you for that introduction and going out. So I'm going to go back and ask you some questions because, it's interesting that I see right now, one of the major, I'm sorry, let me turn that off here. One of the major issues is housing. And many times people talk about affordable housing for the poor. And it seems like they're ignoring affordable housing for the people who want to be middle class and want to stay middle class. So I talk about that issue first because your opinion right now, corporate America is disproportionately purchasing homes, not just in North Las Vegas, but across the board.
across the country.
across the country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Give me your thoughts on how in North Las Vegas that can be combated or reduced, because I know for a fact there have been subdivisions in North Las Vegas which were purchased 100% by investors without the opportunity for a person who wanted to buy it to live in it, even having the opportunity to purchase.
So it will be very difficult to go backwards, but here's what I can tell you, and this is the sole duty of the mayor. The mayor is supposed to lead the city council in measures to help the residents of North Las Vegas to have a more productive, safe, secure, successful life. That's the job of the mayor, to lead, okay? To lead. You can't lead without a vision. And so when I talk about affordable housing, I know that there are some people whose income is more than what the cutoff score is for any type of public assistance, but it's below what they need to survive. And so I'm looking at, let's take a look at what when people come and say we're going to build another 500 houses. Okay. One of the things that the mayor and the city council can do is to say, we're going to step back, and if you're going to put 500 houses or 500 homes in this development, then a certain percentage of them must be for low to moderate income individuals. There's nothing we can do about who comes in and buys. The only thing that we can do right now is to make sure that people understand when you get a call, and I get calls almost every day. Somebody asking me, do you want to sell your house? No, I don't want to sell it. So there's not a lot we can do about what's happening right now, but I know that moving forward, we can do that. And the jobs that I'm talking about are really careers. You give someone a job making $25 an hour and plus benefits. And when you look at benefits, benefits are half, usually 50% of whatever that is. So $25 an hour, and half of that is $12.50. So actually what you're talking about is someone making the equivalent of $37.50 an hour. Get people to work in those types of careers that will be around for a while. Now, what we've done is we've lifted them out of poverty, and we've provided an opportunity for them to be the ones who are purchasing homes. I think a lot of this has to do with what we do with planning and zoning, and what we really do when it comes to what we do when it comes to making sure that all of the land that is used, make sure that that is used in a way that benefits the citizens of North Las Vegas. And right now, we're not doing that. We're not doing that at all.
Okay, and I want to go back, because on the housing, there was just part of that moratorium, or the questionnaire, I think, was whether or not to have rent control. Is that correct?
Yes, it was capped. That would be tied to inflation, I think it was.
Okay, and you were for that happening, correct?
Yeah, I was. Yes, and here's what I say. Now, I don't know why the city council didn't let it go forward, because the only thing that the petition was saying is let the people decide. Let the people decide. And I'm a firm believer that in this environment, if you put something like that forward to the people, they will decide that we need to cap some of the increases because people cannot pay their rent. And Mr. Harrison, let me say this, because this is something else that just blew my mind. Okay. In the midst of this affordable housing crisis, the mayor decides we're going to talk about building a downtown North Las Vegas. Sit on that for a minute. And it's going to have retail shops. And I'm thinking, you got people right now who can't pay their rent and who can't buy a loaf of bread. If I can't buy a loaf of bread, I can't go to the Gucci store. Let's focus on what the important things are right now. And I think the people should have had an opportunity to vote on that measure. We have initiatives coming forward all the time at every level of government. We've had several of them since I've been in the Senate. When the citizens sign those petitions, when they meet the legal requirements, those petitions should go forward. And it's an opportunity for people to make a decision about how their lives will continue.
Okay. Again, and I appreciate that. That's an interesting story or interesting question. I understand you say the people should make that decision.
Yes.
And I'm torn in the situation. As I said, I focus on affordable housing
Mhm.
in a different light. And again, I asked the question. I know you said there's no way, but there have been certain areas. I live in Henderson, to give the
Mhm.
example.
Mhm.
Many of our associations are making rules that so that if you are not physically living in that area, then you cannot be a renter to kind of curb it. We can push at increased taxes to the point where, if you have over a certain amount of them, it becomes not a great return on my investment. There are
Mhm.
ways that I can say from local
Mhm.
to state to federal government, that laws can be changed to make it unattractive to corporations
Mhm.
to be in this market. And
Yeah, and
so, yeah, so give me
yeah,
your thoughts there.
yeah, and I will agree with you that there are things that can be done um, through changing statutes and ordinances. Um, where we are right now with the current administration in North Las Vegas, that's not going to happen. If they would not let a simple initiative go forward, they will not entertain anything else. I'm unfamiliar with how they do that in Henderson, but I am always willing to learn. And if there is a way for us to make sure that it is not as desirable for people to get a lot of homes, to buy up a lot of homes so that they control the market. If there's a way for us to do that, I'm certainly open to that, because I think, as I said before, people have got to have shelter. And some of the people, this is the obscene part. Some of the people who are homeless or housing insecure are veterans. Are veterans. And veteran and homelessness should never be in the same sentence. And I'm talking about not just, quote, low income, but I'm talking about low to moderate income. I'm talking about making this available and accessible to all people. And by the way, let me tell you about a bill that I had last session in 21 that allows people who are currently receiving some type of government assistance to have a separate account that does not count against their benefits. It's called an individual development account. And the way the bill was written, the treasurer, who has now crafted what the rules and the regulations to do that, what it says is that people can put money in this IDA, this individual development account. They can put money in there to save up to buy a home, to start a small business, to pay off some debts that are keeping them from buying a home. But the other group that it benefits is foster children, because those who age out in the foster care system, 1 minute past midnight on their 18th birthday, they're out of the system and they have nothing. And so it also allows the foster child, foster parents, somebody who is concerned about them, somebody to put money in these accounts, and it doesn't count against the benefits. That's one of the things that I did while in the Senate. And I know that if we use that, along with some of the things that you just mentioned, I know that we can solve this problem. Listen, whatever we can do, I'm open to it, because I know people are hurting. I know people are hurting. And if we don't have a place to live, then the rest of our lives just fall apart. Just
Okay.
fall apart.
Okay. Let me ask you this question because again, North Las Vegas was the first predominantly minority majority. With I guess I just found out Las Vegas is now majority minority. Uh, when you look at the governmental mix of people who are running the government, it's completely opposite. How do we get serious inclusion and make sure that the cities that are being now majority minority reflect the values, the beliefs, and the opportunities, including not just jobs,
Mhm.
but as the economic
Representation.
growth happens, how do they make sure that they're not left out the table as it has happened in the
Mhm.
past?
So one of the things that I had pledged to do is make sure that we institute a diversity audit. Because it's not just the people who are not getting information about job openings, it's also, we don't have a diverse supply chain. Meaning that the businesses that the city, the companies that the city does business with is not diverse at all. And
Correct.
so the diversity audit will do a couple of things. Number one, it will give us a baseline as to where we are. We'll be able to look at that and say, so how are we recruiting? When there is an opening coming up or when there is a vacancy, how are we recruiting? And how wide a net are we casting for that? And I believe one of the things that the mayor can do along with the city council is to make sure it has to be mandated that the net is cast far and wide so that we have a diverse pool of candidates. Now, you know, one of the things that and it's always humorous a little bit, that people say was, well, you know, we couldn't find any women or we couldn't find any Black candidates or we couldn't find any Latino candidates. And so I said, where did you look? Where did you look? Well, we posted it on the wall, you know, down at City Hall and where everybody could see it. Okay, if anybody didn't come to City Hall, then that means they didn't see it. Okay, and so when I talk about casting a wide net, I'm talking about every available venue, making sure that people have that. You are correct. The people who now are in jobs and positions, and let me just deal with North Las Vegas. I truly don't believe that they are representative of the people who pay the salaries. But we have to know what is going on right now. And then from there, craft personnel policies that require, that indeed demand that the pool of candidates be as diverse as possible. And that means casting a wider net.
Okay.
And I hope that answered your question.
For the most part, it did. Because, and I guess I'm gonna go back and say that sounds good all the time, but I look back right now. There's on the books to look at the amount of people by race on any government jobs that were dealing with construction. They don't even look at it. It's a rule, but nobody looks at it, nor do they do anything to resolve it. Just as you said, during even the monies that went to the stadium. There was a community benefits, and the benefit to my community was dismal at best. So it sounds good. We just want to see it happen. But let me ask you this other question.
Can I address that for just a minute? And as I said before, here's the way it happens. We have passed some really good bills that deal with supply chain diversity. And we even passed a bill, and I'm not going to quote the numbers because I will probably get them wrong, but allows like some small businesses can't get a project because they don't have enough money to get bonded. Okay. And so a few sessions ago, we passed a bill that they could use the bonding ability of a larger firm to get that and encourage those larger firms to make sure that they were bringing them along. So number one, what is not inspected is neglected. The diversity audit will tell us exactly where we are. It's not enough to say, well, yeah, we've got 40% of our workforce are women. How do we know that? And what jobs are they in? Are we talking about people who are actually at the decision-making table? Or are we talking about the contractors that clean around and do the landscaping? What are we talking about? Well, we've got to do that diversity audit. And once we do that diversity audit, and that has got to be public. And then we've got to make sure, as I said before, we have to have a recruiting plan that casts a wide net. And then hold us accountable. Hold us accountable. If we don't do that, hold us accountable.
Okay, we will. Let me ask you something. North Las Vegas obviously has probably one of the highest concentration of African Americans. Disproportionately, the homeless are African Americans. many people tend to try to make it look like it's all drugs and such when the working poor, just as I said, we're disproportionately in the lower economic jobs, and people are choosing between having a roof over their head
Mhm.
or not living. How do you think that, again, no affordable housing isn't here, but
Mhm. Mhm.
the homelessness is here,
Mhm.
and it's bludgeoning, getting bigger and bigger. How do you think that North Las Vegas will be able or should be able to handle this rising issue that it's like as it rises, the water falls. So
Mhm.
how do we address this issue now to try to address? I always tell people the tsunami that's about to hit.
And so one of the things that I worked on every session while in the Senate is trying to get more money to our for mental health. The other thing that we should be doing, and that is making sure that housing, if it's not here right now, how do we get it here? The homeless people are not just addicts, and they're not just those who have mental issues. And I've worked with Sandra Cosgrove, like I said, just about every session since I've been in the Senate to try to address this problem. I think what we have to do is, and I'll go back to the affordable housing piece. We have the low income housing tax credits. Okay, that is a federal program. Making sure that people who step up and say, I want a tax credit and I'm going to build this affordable housing development. You can say that, but if you don't go back and check that, nobody knows if you did it or not, right? And so there are some tools that are available to us right now. The housing issue is not going to get better on its own, and I don't think that there's a silver bullet, but I think a combination of things. I think making sure that we increase the affordable housing units, and making sure that we have good jobs, not just for people who want to work for someone, but it also creates an opportunity for entrepreneurs. The other thing that I believe that we've got to do is we've got to make sure that the medical issues are addressed, which is why if you look at my website, I have on there creating a medical corridor. And that's not just geographic, it's also virtual. I want to make sure that we have the resources focused in a place so that wherever people need that information, they can go and they can get it. There's no silver bullet. I wish I had a magic wand, but I don't. But I believe that using what we already have with respect to tax credit, using what we have already when people come and they want a permit to build a new development, we can attach some parameters on that. And I do believe that the initiative that Culinary Union brought forward, I think that the people need to be given an opportunity to vote on that.
Okay.
And
Let me
I'm
ask.
just trying to be real
Yeah.
with you, okay?
Okay, I am. I mean, I expect you to. Just recently, and I believe, hopefully, I say this correctly. There were some tiny homes or whatever that were just taken down and removed in North Las Vegas. Obviously, it's a catch-22 when you come to housing the poor or the homeless, because everybody wants to do it, but not my neighborhood, not my backyard, not here, not there. So how do we deal? Our tiny homes are how are we going to do this now? Because again, credits are great, but the problem's here today, and literally in a country as great as this is, and we see people living under overpasses, and as I said, disproportionately is Black people, and it's not always mental and drugs. Many of them just cannot afford a place to live. So I'm saying right now, do we look at what can we do right now that's not necessarily tax credits, but initially, do we create some areas? I don't know the answer. Just from the aspect of the mayor of North Las Vegas, this problem is going to get worse. And do you think little home, or what they call them, tiny homes? Do you
Tiny
think
homes, yeah.
some type of developments, even if they're temporary developments, are needed to basically at least try to stem the tide of homelessness that's coming here, that's here, not even coming, it's already
Yeah.
here.
So you're right, it is a catch-22. Affordable housing for me is not just a unit that's 900 square feet. And I know something is better than nothing, but what I want to focus on is, number one, do we have anything that exists right now? And I don't know if you saw the interview that I did with Channel 8 with respect to recommendations for stations casinos. They're going to sell the property, the Texas Station and the Fiesta. My recommendation to them was don't sell it, refurbish it, and use it for housing, especially for women veterans and for women with children. Use it for some of the most vulnerable people in our community. Make sure that as you use that, make sure that there are opportunities for learning new skills, new trades inside that. And the people who live there, we can keep the theater open, we can keep the bowling alley open, we can keep the cafeterias or the restaurants open. And those are ways that the people immediately can have a job. What I'd like to do is, instead of focusing on units that are just 900 square feet, again, I want to take inventory. What do we have here right now? And there may be some duplexes, there may be some apartment buildings, there may be some single family homes that we can take some of those low income housing tax credits and use those as an incentive for current owners to convert to some type of low income or moderate income housing. There's no silver bullet, but I am willing to sit down to the table with people who are a lot smarter than me and say, these are some of my ideas. Tell me what you think will work. And if it's not going to work, tell me what will. Let's get together and let's look at this, because ignoring the problem, which is what is happening right now, it's not going to go away.
Yes, I agree.
It's not going to go away.
Now, first of all, I want to say something. Thank you for your service as a veteran. I respect all veterans.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I do have a little bit of an issue that I have to state. Right now, Black men are very much upset because while I believe veterans should have housing, I truthfully believe that veterans do not have a step up to have housing over another person. I think we need to address the whole always everywhere. While I believe that women and women in need should, but when you look at the incarceration of Black men, the unemployment of the high men, it sounds good to say women, it sounds good to say veterans, but the folks who I believe are probably taking the blunt of everything, and I'm talking about Black men have the highest amount of incarceration. They have the lowest amount of employment. It sounds good when everybody talks about taking care of everybody else. And I encourage you, and I'm encouraging all of the folks, stop thinking we're going to shake our heads and think that's great to talk about everybody but us. That is really something that is starting to grate on me. And as I talk to other Black men, it grates on us that we're asked, just as they did in other places, to celebrate everybody else's success while we see our demise. So that's just a commentary to please think about, because there is a void there that is getting bigger, because I tell people America is only strong as its weakest link. And if Black people are part of, if Black men are part of that weakest link, then they should be as important and discussed as much as everybody else, including veterans, including women, including everybody else. But that's not a topic that people feel comfortable about discussing. So your thoughts there?
So I'm comfortable in discussing that. When I think about veterans, my last assignment was at the Pentagon. And I was there during the height of the Iraqi and Afghanistan wars. And I know what many of our, especially combat veterans, have gone through, and it's not just men, but it's also women. And they're Black, and the military now, especially the Army, has more BIPOC folks in there who are listed. And when you stop and you go up and you look at the VA, there are a lot of Black men who are getting services from the VA. So please don't hear when I say specifically veterans that I'm excluding anyone else, but I mention veterans because I saw what they went through in war. And I know, and I know that most of the time, if you don't mention them, it's a forgotten loss. Now, are there some things that we should be doing for the formerly incarcerated? Yes. Yes. When I talk about fixing the affordable housing crisis, I'm not leaving anybody out. But I have to say veterans because I need people to keep that on their mind. And for women veterans, especially, every housing project that has been done in the county, in the state, and across the nation has always been done based upon the needs of male veterans. But we have women veterans who have children, women veterans who they're not going to go and they're not going to live in a place where they are. And so if I don't mention them, then I've done a disservice to the brothers and sisters that I've served with. So please don't hear that as exclusionary, but I've got to mention them.
No,
And I've got to
absolutely.
make sure that we're including everybody. I'm not segmenting and I'm not quote prioritizing, but I've got to mention them because we cannot forget them. Some of them are walking amongst us now. Some Black men, and I know that that's right. Some Black men right now are dealing with depression because of issues related to their service. A lot of Black men are dealing with that. And so fixing it means again, let's look at the problem. Let's look at the resources that we have and let's get to work pulling the resources together, and whatever we don't have, let's figure out how we get it. And let's make sure that we get it done. But I have to always mention veterans.
Absolutely. And as I said, I'm not saying don't. I'm not, believe me, that's why I started off to say thank you for your service. And that's why I say I have the much love and support for veterans because they are the ones that have kept our democracy going. But I'm also saying I need for people to step up and include Black men in the discussion the way they include everybody else. So this is not just to you, this is to everyone. We're tired of everybody else appearing to be, because they're prioritized if they're discussed, just as you said. If you talk about them, it keeps the priority up. Well, when it comes to Black men, it's almost like don't discuss them. Don't discuss the fact that the war on drugs disproportionately hit Black men, especially. You don't look on the fact that when you look at discrimination and opportunity, disproportionately now, Black men are at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to opportunity for a lot of reasons. So no, I'm not disparaging that. I believe you should continue to talk about veterans, about women, about everybody, but I believe that it's time for men to be in the discussion too, Black men, because you know, we have borne a lot of the blunt of the civil rights movement. We have borne a lot of the blunt of many of the things that have made everybody's groups better through the civil rights movement, but yet now it seems like the discussion about us is secondary, third, or never discussed. So I just wanted to make that clear because it's important that people, you know, when I just tell you, when I hear everybody else mentioned in a room, but folks who look like me, Black men, it kind of concerns me because it feels like I'm opening the door for everybody else and clapping for their success. So I just throw that out as something. I understand. Thinking about because most, and I'm saying all the politicians love to talk about veterans. They love to talk about women. They love to talk about children, but they don't look at the catastrophic issues coming. Because here's another fact: homelessness is going to be. Black men are probably hit the hardest of homelessness because you've got a segment of people who were incarcerated. If you've been incarcerated for most of your adult life, you don't get the money for Social Security. You're now put out on the street. You don't have the help for anything. So you're homeless, not because you're mentally ill, not because of this. You got a record to go behind you. You got all the other issues that are confronting you. Like I said, the war on drugs. We took now millionaires. We have white millionaires who are making tons of money while a lot of my Black men who set up the infrastructure have been in jail and through systemic racism have been driven out of even the opportunity to be in the industry that they created as far as putting the platform. So I just ask that we at least have a little more empathy to the Black men and and a lot of the trials and tribulations that we are going to, because they are just as important as every other group. But
I hear you and I receive that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
now going back, as I said, water. Tell me about this, because in my opinion, luckily we got a lot of rain this last couple of weeks, but
Not enough.
it's water. It's almost like it's like the government is not admitting how much trouble we are in from the whole perspective of right now growth here in Nevada. It's a direct correlation between growth and and, uh, and water. And we're going to be at a point, if we don't address this issue instead of just basically nibbling around the edges, where water could be the destruction of southern Nevada. What are your thoughts on the whole water issue, and what do you think we need to do? Do we need to even consider mandates on growth? It's funny, we need more housing, but maybe we don't need more housing if it's bringing more people in. So I don't know the answer. I just want your opinion on it.
So remember earlier I said it's not a silver bullet.
Yep.
One of the things that should have been done was when you make, and most cities do this anyway, they have a 5, 10, and 30-year plan. One of the things that should have been done with all of the vacant land that was north of Craig is to sit down and say, what would be the infrastructure needed if we put X number of houses? If we don't put houses there, what can we do that will improve the quality of life for the people here? That was not done. That was not done. The other thing with respect to water issues, a lot of that has to do with the vicissitudes of climate change. And we have not really addressed that. One of the things that I have championed in the state Senate is every energy bill that you see that has been passed since I've been in the Senate has my name on it somewhere. Mm-hmm. I'm either the primary sponsor, primary co-sponsor, or I supported it or whatever. It's a comprehensive planning, mm-hmm. because the things that we're talking about are segments of the bigger problem that we face. And we can't deal with one without dealing with the other. But we can't we can't do that by saying, well, I'm going to deal with A, and then we'll come back and do the rest of it in December, and then we'll do C in, April of next year. No, we've got to sit down to the table with the stockholders and the stakeholders, and let's look at the problems that we have and come up with comprehensive solutions. And that's not going to be overnight. But here's my proposition. My proposition is this: move the city council meetings from 4:00 in the afternoon when most people are working. Move that to a more acceptable hour of something like 6. And let's make sure that it's online. Let's make sure if we have to, get something through Hulu, whatever we have to do, so that it's available for people to see what's going on in their government and to be able to comment on that. And so the crisis that we face right now, part of the issue is we have an administration that is basically look the other way. Look the other way. These are serious problems that require serious solutions. I have no illusions, no illusions that this will be done within the first 2 years while I'm mayor. I have no illusions. But what I do know is that if we get to work tackling this right now and get some smart people involved in the discussions, and when I say smart people involved, you know what, Mr. Harris, I'm going to invite you. Once I become mayor, please come to my office. Let's talk about some more of these things. And let's get some other people that to talk about some more of these things. Let's get a community conversation going about not just the issues, but some of the things that you think we can do.
Solutions.
Yes. Okay. And anybody that has dealt with me in the Senate knows that I am an open-minded person. There are bills that come through in Commerce and Labor, everything that deals with commerce in the state, to include insurance rates. And that's whether it's property insurance or health insurance, well, all of that comes through my committee. And I've always, when people ask me about a bill that is coming before my committee, when they sit down in the chair across from me, across from my desk, first thing I ask them is, who's against it? and why. And whoever the people are that are against it, I bring them in. Why are you against this? And what would make it better? And I get both of the people together. And by the time the bill leaves, it may not be what the person who sponsored it initially wanted, but we have a bill that is crafted that we at least we can move forward and we can make incremental change if that's all we can do. And then we just keep making that kind of change. But I know that if we continue doing the same thing we're doing, this race right now is a clear choice. Do you want to continue doing what has always been done that frankly ain't working for us? No kind of way. No kind of way. It ain't working for us. Do you want to continue doing that? Or do you want something different? And to be sure, I respect what the councilwoman's family has given to North Las Vegas and what they've done for the state. I respect that. I respect that. But where we are right now, even using the tool of Facebook, we're using parts of an international innovative system. So we can't just look at North Las Vegas. We've got to expand to look at not just across the country, but across the world. And that's all I'm asking. I'm saying, let's move forward, but we can't move forward doing the same thing that we've always done. It can't happen.
Great. Now I'm going to tell you something. We have, because I try to keep it to this, and I thank you. I know you're a busy person, first of all. I'm going to let you take it home, but I want you to give me the abridged version. America's in trouble right now. You know, I'm a 60s baby, 1960, and I've never seen the division that I'm seeing today. As a Black man, one of my concerns is the rise of white nationalism. I believe it's the precursor to fascism. I believe that it's something that needs to be talked at. I think it needs to be educated, because I think misinformation, if people understand historically, was used by Hitler to create fascism. And it looks like we're headed in the same direction. Just give us a short, what do you think? And how do you think we can kind of address it and come together as one America?
If you don't face it, you can't fix it.
Yeah.
And the one thing that's happening in different pockets of government is there are some people acting like it's okay. It's okay. The other thing that I've done since being in the Senate is to work on bills about equality and equity. And had my colleagues to face some hard realities. The diversity audit that I talked about, I can almost guarantee, at least 90% guarantee, that when we get the results of that audit, not just for this year, but if we go 10 years back, I can almost guarantee you that the segments of the population who now are suffering, disproportionately suffering economically, I can almost guarantee you that they're absent. Almost guarantee you that. When we talk about the rise of white nationalism, I'm not afraid to do that. I'm not afraid to do that. And I also am not afraid to confront it. When we talked about voting rights, I was very clear in the Senate when in 2020, when we had the special session and talking about, talking about mail-in ballots and those sorts of things. And my colleagues on the other side of the aisle were trying to say, well, we're going to, what that does is that leaves room for fraud and everything. I said, and I was real clear when I said to them, nobody talked about fraud in voting until Barack Obama was elected. Now let's be clear about that, okay? The other thing that I said is that voting is a sacred right. And I talked about the fact that I am only third generation free. When I was in Uganda, I was asked by someone, what generation free are you? And quite frankly, I had never thought of it. And I had to think about it. My grandmother was barely born free. She was born about 20 years after the emancipation. My dad was born free and I was born free. But check it out. I am the first generation that has been born into the expectation that voting will happen for me regardless of my color, regardless of my gender. Okay. And so when it comes to equality and equity, you don't want to tangle with me on that. I'm not afraid to call it what it is. And a lot of what's happening with the misinformation and the disinformation is because people recognize that those communities that have been marginalized, if they can dispirit those communities, if they can make them think your vote doesn't count, if they can make you think it's already done, if they can make them think all of that, then they can continue to do what they do. What I want to do is bring more people into the discussion. That's what I want to do. And when we talk about confronting white nationalism, there was a ballot question in 2020 that dealt with HAVA, Help America Vote Act. And I don't know how many people, when they walk into the polling place, you could see a list of about 13 things you have a right to, you have a right to, you have a right to. Mm-hmm. Well, that was statute. After the Supreme Court's decision in 2013, I called our legal folks and I put together a bill that would make sure that voting was protected in Nevada. The bill was out in 15, but the Republicans controlled the legislature, so they didn't hear it. I brought it back in 17. I brought it back in 19 because to change the Constitution, it has to pass 2 consecutive legislative sessions, okay? Brought it back in 17, brought it back in 19, and it passed. I didn't say a whole lot about it. I didn't make a whole lot of fanfare about it. But it passed on the ballot. Question 4 in 2020 was a bill that I carried from 15, 17, and 19 to make sure that the properties that were available to us under HAVA, the statutes, are now in our Constitution. Those are the things that I think we have to do when we start talking about confronting it. We've got to make sure we face the problem head on, and we can't talk about it in pretty terms. This is what it is. This is what it is. And as a veteran, I'm offended. I am offended when people talk about January the 6th as though it was just a stroll in the park. Mm-hmm. It was an attack on our government. That's what it was. I'm not afraid. And I'm already retired. I'm a Black woman. I've lived as a Black woman, and I'm proud about it. Everything that I have, that I've achieved right now in my life, I've had to fight for. My first day in the military, in officer basic, my first day, I had one of the teachers to go around the room and talk about how hard the course was going to be, and stand there in front of my desk and lean down and look at me and say, everybody's not going to make it through graduation. And I turned to the person sitting next to me. I said, he's not talking about me. They made everything that I did harder than anybody else. Through my career, I've had to be more, do more than any other person in the military. As a woman, as a Black woman, and in the military police corps, there was a lot of racism and a lot of prejudice. I had to do more and be more. And so right now, I have very little tolerance for racial discrimination, any type of ethnic discrimination, linguistic discrimination, gender discrimination, fill in the blank discrimination. I've got a very low tolerance for that. And wherever I see it, I'm not afraid to address it. I'm not afraid to root it out. And I'm not afraid to gather people with me to make sure that the people's voice is heard. And the people who are perpetuating that understand that from the people's point of view, we ain't having it.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to fill on time, so thank you very much, because I'm gonna have you close it out. But I do have one quick, because it brought up, there is going to be a ballot issue on open primaries. Mm-hmm. Are you for or against open primaries, and why? Just it's quick, not a long one, yeah. But so I can.
So I think that right now, I can't say that there is a definite yes or a definite no. But here's what I think happens in open primaries. People who are nonpartisan, the way it is right now, they're shut out of the primary system. Okay. And if that will fix it, and I talked to, I'm trying to remember the guy who is carrying that bill, but I've talked to him about that. I think that a system that allows everybody to participate in it, I think, yes, that is necessary. I think, yes, that is necessary. Here's what else I believe. If we're going to do open primaries, then I think people have to spend the time getting educated on who the candidates are and what they stand for. You know, one of the issues that we face when we start talking about inequality is the judicial system. But if you ask most people when they go into the voting booth, They have no idea who's running for judge. And so
unless,
with open,
unless they've come through the independent Black voters, they know.
yeah, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm saying most people don't know. And so with that comes the responsibility to learn about the candidates, who they are and what they support. Okay. To learn, and it's not just the candidate. I think it's important for you to know who supports them, because whoever is supporting them, if they are accepting that person's support, that means that they agree with the stance that that person has. Okay. And here's one of the things that the current mayor has said. He has said very blatantly that he doesn't want to leave the city in the hands of socialists. The current mayor is the same person who said to an accomplished professional who was trying to make their case as to why they should have been promoted and why their application should have been given some type of consideration, who said to them, go back to Africa. Okay. Now, as far as I'm concerned, not only do I not want his support, I don't need his support, because I disagree vehemently with everything that he stands for, everything. So with the open primary comes the responsibility to look at the candidates. Absolutely. And see what they're standing for and look at the people who are supporting them. And if someone is supporting them, that must mean that the candidate agrees with them.
Okay. Well, again, we're towards the end. I wanted to keep it to an hour, and I let you end it up. You got 3 minutes here. I thank you for taking the time, because this will be posted on the Independent Black Voters to give people a chance to know who you are, what you are, and what your values are. So now you got 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes to take it home.
So here's why I want to come home and be mayor, because I have helped people. 94% of my Senate district encompasses North Las Vegas. Okay. I have already helped people with myriad problems and issues that they've had. I understand what the residents are facing. I'm coming home because I want to use my legislative experience. I want to use my experience as a pastor, as a former pastor. I want to use my experience as a military officer. I want to use all of my experience that I have gained participating at the national level. I want to make sure that I come home, and that as the mayor and the leader of the council, I want to make sure that we're using every available resource that we have to make sure that the people who have lost their jobs, who have been displaced by technology, make sure that we are retraining, uptraining, giving them more skill sets. I want to use the skill set that I've had and the information that I've had and that I've developed over my lifetime. I want to make sure that I'm using that to meet the needs of people, talk to people. I want to use that to bring people together. We might not always agree on everything, but we ought to always be able to talk to people about that. I want to use all of that experience so that we can create a North Las Vegas that is a world-class hub for business innovation and business development. And that will include everybody. When we talk about expanding the job market, we talk about expanding economic development and economic opportunities. I'm talking about doing that with a concerted effort. I'm coming home to be mayor, not because I need the money, not because I need the prestige. I'm already retired. I'm coming home because I know we are standing right now on the precipice of greatness or status quo. And I'm coming home to be the next mayor of North Las Vegas, because I reject the notion that we cannot do better. We can do better, but we can only do that with visionary, transparent, skilled, competent, and unafraid leadership. I'm all of those things. I need your vote to do it. And that's all I'm asking. Give me a chance. I've already worked with people who play the game. I already know what they do. I already know how they do it. I already know all of that. And so one of the things that I know is that people who want to keep things the same, one of the reasons that my candidacy scares them is because they know that I know them. Okay? You're not going to spit in my face and tell me it's raining outside. As your next mayor, I have developed the political skill to be able to operate in the system that, for many, if you don't know how to do that, it will work against you. I need your vote. That's what I'm asking. I need your vote. Give me a chance to bring you into the conversation. Give me a chance to bring you into the solution-making process. Give me a chance. And I promise you, if you give me a chance, I may not get it right all the time, but I'm going to wake up every day asking myself, Pat, What can you do to help make the lives of people in North Las Vegas better? And that's the only reason I'm running for mayor. The only reason.
And we thank you. Again, this is the Independent Black Voters on Facebook. Our vote is not free. We challenge you to be educated. Look, listen, learn from all candidates. Vote your heart, but be an educated voter. Thank you again, Senator Spearman. We appreciate your time and your efforts to tell us about who you are.
Thank you. Thank you. And I wasn't yelling because I was mad. I get excited.